Your line of work is sales.
Correct.
Is phone fear a real thing for all the people that are listening? Is it real, and
Oh my gosh.
can you get over it?
Oh, for sure. When you start to believe in your product enough that it matters so much to you that you're willing to do what's needed regardless of how you feel and regardless of the fear that you're facing. Anytime you face adversity, worry, doubt, right, anxiety, those are the purest signs that you're supposed to advance.
I had 100 people on the phones. You have way more than I've ever had. You have now how many?
18,000.
18,000 people on the phones.
How do I duplicate? How do I scale? How do I remove thinking from the equation? I was like, well, the way you remove thinking is you script everything, you systemize everything, you create SOPs for everything, you create processes that it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, you follow those things, and now you remove the thinking aspect of it, and so it's all a mastery of words.
Culture, in my opinion, is everything.
Yep. Culture becomes a mirror of the leader.
Yep.
So whatever you want your culture to be, the leader has to embody. And if the leader doesn't embody it, it's not going to transfer to the rest of their entire organization.
How big do you ultimately see this getting?
Our company
Yeah.
will be the biggest thing ever in the history of financial services.
What's going on, y'all? Eric Cline again with an episode, a badass episode today. Refuse to Lose podcast. You know, it's all about letting everybody know, dude, you're qualified. No matter where you come from, I don't care the color of your skin, your background, what level of education you have, dude, you're qualified to have a better life. And for years, I did not think I was qualified, and it's all about getting around the right people. Dude, at the end of the day, the life you ultimately want is the people you do not know yet and the information between where you're at now and ultimately where I know you can go. So I got a badass guy, Matthew Welsh, on today's episode. And dude, you want to talk about just a stone cold killer of being able to scale a 9-figure business in what might be record time of anybody that I've met. And the dude is only 29 years old. So Matthew, welcome to the show, man.
Brother, how does someone not like listen to that intro and then think I'm gonna go run through a wall? Like I don't need to listen to any of the content. Like forget what Matthew says. I'm just gonna listen to what Eric just introduced with. So the pleasure's mine, man. I'm fired up to be here. By the way, beautiful office. I know you literally just moved in like yesterday.
Yeah, literally,
And
man. We got boxes out there.
Yeah, if you're listening, just so you guys know, like this office is bitchin'. It is awesome. So thank you, man. I'm excited to be here, and in the short amount of time just meeting you already, you're just real.
Yeah.
You know, and I love it and I respect it, man. Like I really, really do. Like listening to the goal of the show, what you're trying to do, inspiring the next generation of people to really believe that they can do anything and become anything and have anything and succeed at anything. I think it's a big deal. So thank you. The honor's mine, man. I'm excited to be with you today.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, I don't know anything about him other than the 5-minute conversation that we've had prior to the show. So I want to get to know you with the audience.
Yeah.
And I know there's a ton of people out there that are going to be watching this, Matt. And I know they're thinking, there's no way I could be sitting in one of these seats. So I asked you a few questions about your past, where you come from and all that. But I guess give us a view of who the hell you are and where did you come from?
Yeah. Well, I'm the tallest person you've ever had on your show. I'm like 6'8" on Zoom, you know, that's why I like Zoom. And then it's in person, like 5'7.5" on a good day, right? But born and raised in San Diego, grew up playing sports. Sports was always my everything. Soccer was my main niche. 19 years old, I got recruited into the financial space, right? So 19 years old, got recruited into the financial space. Had no background in finance, no background in anything, right? I wanted to do something big. I had a dad that was battling cancer and was sick, and he, my family needed me because we were struggling financially. And I also just wanted to do something, right? Like I wanted to do something great. I wanted to achieve greatness in my life. And I came from a family that was rich spiritually, rich like in the sense of family, but we struggled financially, right? Like my mom had a daycare, lost it in 2008. My dad was a contractor, self-employed, and then he got diagnosed with cancer and fought for 14 years before he passed. And so there's no income there. And so we're just always struggling. And I remember in high school, I started dating a girl, and she was from La Jolla, right? La Jolla, California. And it's one of the wealthiest places in the United States, if you don't know. And I go down there, and I didn't even know houses like this existed. I didn't even know a life like this existed. And I was walking into some of these different houses, and I'm like, what? Like people live like this, right? Yeah. And I remember walking into a buddy of mine's garage, and I'm like, what is that thing plugged into the wall? He goes, it's called a Tesla. It's the first one that's ever been made. And I'm sitting there, and my mind is just blown, and that there was a life like this out there. And so that was in high school. So I always like knew there was a better life. I wanted to have a better life. I just didn't know how to get it. And so I was constantly searching for the vehicle that was going to help me go from where I was to where I wanted to be. And I just happened to find that in the financial space, got in at 19, dropped everything that I was doing. I went full-fledged. I made about 120 grand my first year. By the time I was 25, I was making $1 million a year. 29 years old right now, making a couple $1 million a year, and just pure passive income because of the business that we built. And now we've started a company that will do about $150 million this year in revenue. And the best part about it is not what we're making or not what the company's making. It's what the agents within our company are making and what they're doing for their families and who they're becoming and the success that they're achieving, not just financially, but in their marriages and their spirituality and their fitness and just every area of their life is improving. And for us, that's everything. And that's what drives us the most is seeing our people win. So that's kind of like the short story about how I got into the space.
That's, a lot was said right there. Yeah. So we can definitely, I want to go back and just talk about some of the points that one I can personally relate with. So I'm 43 years old. So I got what, 14 years on you?
You're 43 with a sick beard. If I could grow that, like,
I love it. So, man, there's so many things I can relate to with what you just said. And haven't lost a family member yet. So I haven't went through that. I'm sure that was tough. Yeah. How old were you when that happened?
My dad passed about 3 years ago, and was my absolute hero, man. You know, like my dad's business was Bryan Integrity Services, right? And so he had a contracting business, and he just believed in always doing the right thing and taking care of people properly and doing the best work. And so he was always busy, busy. And so when I was about 12, he got diagnosed, and they basically told him, hey, you got 5 months to live, right? And they told him he had 5 months to live 4 times in that 14-year period. And I just watched him fight and fight and fight. And what was so cool about my dad is like, I never heard him speak ill of another human being. I never heard him raise his voice. He was just not that person. Like when Bryan Integrity Services, like the word integrity, like if I have like a visual concept of what the word integrity looks like just because I watched him. Yeah. Right. And so it was one of the things though, even like on the business side, on the entrepreneurship side, that like kept me going, because I just compared everything that I had to do to what my dad was going through, right? Like, because the beginning, like getting any business off the ground sucks. Like it really does. Tough. Like you're just eating glass on a daily basis. There's every day you're like, is this going to be worth it? And every phone call that I had to make, every appointment I didn't want to do, because I'm actually a very introverted person. So being a very introverted person, you go into any type of sales space, right? It's like an anxiety attack, like all of it, right? And so I looked at everything that I had to do, and I just compared it to what my dad was going through. And I realized that it's a privilege to have the opportunity to make this phone call. It's a privilege to have the opportunity to do this appointment. It's a privilege to have the opportunity to work a 12 to 16 hour day, because my dad would do anything to be able to work a 12 to 16 hour day again, like he used to be able to provide for our family, but he couldn't anymore because he was hooked up to hospital beds, right? So I think one of the things that it taught me is A, how to deal with adversity, right? But then B, it gave me a different perspective when I was facing adversity, because all the adversities that I ended up facing started to seem small because of what he was dealing with.
Wow. Your dad seems like a great dude, man.
Yeah, he was, man.
So I won't spend much more time on it, but if he were sitting here in a third chair right now, what do you think he would say of what you've accomplished?
I think he would be proud of what I accomplished, But I think what he would be more proud of is the way we treat people, even though we've accomplished it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that would be it. I remember being 19, 20 years old. There was a financial company I was working for when I got into the space, and there was this annual Hawaii trip that you got to qualify for, right? And so I qualified for this annual Hawaii trip, and I brought my mom and dad on that trip. I'm 19, I looked 12 at the time, right? And I'm on this trip, and I remember going to like even the welcome dinner, and they gave me a wristband, and I was like, how come my wristband's a different color than everyone else's? And then it's because they gave me a child wristband because they thought I was a child of the qualifier. So they didn't think I was the qualifier. They thought I was the kid of someone that I was like, hey, I'm actually the qualifier. So they like put on a new wristband for me, right? And so we're at this event, and I bring my mom and dad with me because I wanted to travel with them because I didn't know how long I was going to have with my dad, right? And so we go to dinner with all the top dogs at this financial company, right? We're all the top dogs. They invited me because I was new, I was an up and coming, I was a rookie, and when we leave the restaurant, my dad would just talk to anyone. Me and my mom went to go get the Jeep, right? And we get into the Jeep. My mom looks over at me and she goes, Matt, before we go get your dad, I don't want you to ever forget that what I'm about to tell you. She goes, I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what you acquire. I don't care what you attain. I don't want you to ever forget that everyone is just as important as you. She said, name one person in that restaurant that knew the waiter's name. She said, not a single person we came with knew the waiter's name. Your dad knows the waiter's name, his kids' names, his wife's name, his favorite place on the island, what he likes to do for fun, why he ended up in Hawaii in the first place. He said, not a single person knew his name.
Wow.
Because they thought so highly of themselves that they didn't care to get to know anyone, right?
That's powerful.
And she said, I don't want you to ever forget that. No matter how successful you become, you don't forget that. And that has stuck with me. And I think that's one of the things that my dad would be more proud of, is not what we've attained, but who we've become in the process of attaining it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Makes sense, dude.
Yeah.
What we learned from our parents, you know? Wow. So going back to you going and seeing this life in La Jolla you didn't know existed. Right?
Yeah.
I grew up in a town called Rockford, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. I was about an hour and 20 minutes northwest of Chicago. And it's a middle class at best town. And at 28 years old, I flew from Chicago to South Florida to go to a treatment center. I literally just the other day was talking with Pat about, I was living in a halfway house because I went down there to go to treatment. To kick a 15-year drug habit.
Wow.
And on August 9th, so in 7 days, I'll have 15 years clean and sober, dude.
Congrats, brother.
Which is crazy.
That's such a big deal.
It literally is like, that is the most important day for me right there. Because whenever I give that date up, if I ever go back, all bets are off for me. So like that always is the most important date for me. But I was living in a halfway house, and I was 28, didn't have a license. It was revoked in multiple states, didn't have money to buy a car, all this stuff. And someone had given me a beat up used mountain bike. And I would ride my bike from the halfway house down to Fort Lauderdale Beach.
Okay.
But there was this road called Las Solas Boulevard. And if you've ever been to South Florida, Las Solas Boulevard, it's almost like the neighborhood you described, all these big houses. And it was the first time I'd have ever seen anything like that. Like I had never seen it. It was the first time I saw a Rolls Royce. By
the way, is that yours down there?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the most beautiful car I've ever seen in my life. There's nothing that beats that car in my eyes. Because when I first saw it, I was like, wow, I'd never seen one. It was very like different for me. And, but I rode up and down because I was in this halfway house for 7 months. And every day, 7 days a week, I rode that up and down that street. And dude, there's something with like manifesting and knowing, because I would think, I'm like, what do these people do to actually live like this? And at this point, it was material shit, right? I come from a small town. I see all this big life. And it caught me off guard because I didn't know it existed. And it was sales ultimately, because your line of work is sales.
Correct.
Through and through?
Through and through.
Sales and marketing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I want to go, you had said at 19 years old, you jump on the phones. So you didn't go to college?
No.
Were you a A+ student through high school?
No. Like the only reason I graduated is because I was decent at soccer, and so my coach wanted me to play.
They pushed you through.
They pushed me through 100%.
Got it. So when you jumped on the phones at 19, you said, without putting words in your mouth, but you had anxiety. It was that phone fear, which is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
Now you're how many years into your career? 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
So is phone fear a real thing for all the people that are listening? Is it real? And
oh my gosh,
can you get over it?
Oh, for sure. By the way, the phone fear is like the realest thing in the world. It was so funny. I spoke at an event last night out here in Scottsdale, and I talked about like the game of phone avoidance that we all have, right?
Yeah.
It's like you wake up in the morning, you're like, dude, I'm gonna hit all my sales calls tomorrow morning. You're fired up. I'm gonna knock it out in the morning, right? And then all of a sudden, it's morning time. You're like, well, I can't call them right now. It's morning time. Like they're probably eating breakfast with their family. I'm going to wait an hour, right?
Yep.
And then you push it back an hour, you push it back. And then all of a sudden you're like, all right, it's 8, 9 o'clock. I can't call them now. They're at work they're at work. I can't call them while they're at work. I'll get them on lunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you push it back to 12:30. 12:30 goes around. You call your list that you're about to call and you pick it up. You're like, you know what? If I call them now, they're going to be eating. They can't talk with their mouth full. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want your lunch to be interrupted on a hard day already. I'll call them after work. And then you're thinking, all right, I'm going to call them after work. And you're about to call them. And like, but they're going to be sitting in traffic. And if I call them right now and they pick up the phone and a cop pulls them over and they get a ticket, they're going to blame me and they're never going to become one of my clients. I gotta wait until after. And then you push it back and then they're at dinner. And then you push it back again and then they're with their family. And then you push it back and then it's past 8 and you're like, I can't call past 8. I'll do it again tomorrow. And then you go through this rinse and repeat process of avoiding making the call because you're afraid of it.
Yeah.
Right? And so everyone goes through it. I think the difference is when you start to believe in your product enough that it matters so much to you that you're willing to do what's needed regardless of how you feel and regardless of the fear that you're facing, right? Because, courage is not the absence of fear, it's the triumph over it. So it's in those moments when you are afraid. Like I'm a believer, and I'm not sure if you are, it's okay if you're not, but I'm a believer. And so what I believe is that anytime you face adversity, worry, doubt, right, anxiety, those are the purest signs that you're supposed to advance. Because our Creator doesn't operate in fear, worry, doubt, and anxiety. So when you experience those things, the adversary is trying to keep you from moving forward because there's some type of benefit and or blessing that you'll create either in your own life and or someone else's and or a combination of both. And so I started realizing that every single time I was afraid of something, on the other side of me being afraid of it was someone's life improving. And I said, I'm not going to allow the adversary to win in this situation. I'm going to win in this situation. And so I started looking at those emotions as a symbol to advance versus those emotions as a symbol to retreat, which is what most people do.
So in the beginning, it was tough for you.
For sure.
Right? Did you have the company that you went first work for?
Yep.
Did they have like proper sales training and all that?
No, not even a little bit.
They didn't.
Yeah, not even a
So
little
it
bit.
was throw Matt at a desk. Here's a script.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Did they have a script?
Not even. They didn't even have a script. That's why all my guys have scripts now. Because like I grew up and they were like, what do you do? They said, just hear us, listen to us, and try to copy it. Right? I was like, okay.
So you're a believer in scripts.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Dude, love it. All right. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why. I jumped, my very first company I ever started was in the timeshare exit space. And I had a systematized process.
Love it.
And meaning I had the scripts, the word tracks. All I needed someone to do was bring their personality and their third-party stories
100%.
And all that into what I knew worked. Because I had tested it for months on my own. And I'm like, holy cow, I make this many dials, have this many conversations,
Correct.
make this many offers. I'm going to get this many deals.
Yep.
All right. It's rinse and repeat. So some are going to perform that better than others. But I am a believer that you can systematize a sales
100%.
team. So you guys, I had 100 people on the phones You have way more than I've ever had. You have now how many?
18,000.
18,000 people on the phone.
In the first 6 months.
In the first 6 months.
Yeah.
You are the first person I've ever met that has built a company that fast. For me, I can't even wrap my head around that, to be brutally honest, just because I know what it takes to scale.
Yeah. And I do want to clarify, it hasn't just been me, right?
Yeah.
I'm a co-founder with the company. It's been, the reason we even pursued this was because of my mentor. His name is Eric Wholesale, right? And so I just want to make sure that I don't take all the light or anything like that, because to be honest with you, it was his mentorship and his coaching, and I followed him, and we're like, we're doing this.
That's
right?
amazing.
But I just want to make sure that I gave him that.
100%. Yeah.
So.
And I'm sure he is proud to have you by his side, vice versa, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So going from, and again, I'm trying to wrap my head around, I had 100 people on the phones. It was controlled chaos.
Yeah.
Because even with 100 people, like, bad seeds slip through. They do, especially with 18,000 people. So you guys have, do you have a sales process or like a system that when you onboard people, they're all kind of saying the same thing, following a script? Right. Explain that.
Yeah. Because and by the way, this is one of the reasons that the financial services and insurance space has such a bad, that it has a bad rep if it does, right? It's because most people they come into the industry, like even right here, right? Been in the industry and nobody teaches them anything. Right? Like they don't teach them anything at all. And then people duplicate that because those that learn it figure like, well, I figured it out. Everyone else should figure it out too. And that's how I was. So the only reason we have all these scripts and things like that, it's because of messing up for so long. And I got so annoyed. I'm like, we're not scaling. We're not growing. Like, how come other people can't do what I do? And a big part of that was, for the longest time, I was like, well, I figured it out. Everyone else will figure it out too.
They're not you.
Exactly. Right. And it's rare to find that needle in the haystack, and they are out there, but imagine how many more of them are like future needle in the haystack.
Yeah, of course.
Because there's so many people that have the capacity, they have the talent, they have the skill. They just really, they learn different. Right. And so we put these systems in place in order to make sure that we could scale. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, for 5.5 years, I was hitting my head up against the wall, and we were making a couple $100,000 a year, whatever it is. But I was like, we're not growing, we're not scaling. I got like 100 people, but nobody's really making a lot of money, right? Like, there's an issue here. And then I said, you know what? I'm gonna unlearn and relearn, right? I'm gonna unlearn and relearn. And I started looking into, like, how do I duplicate? How do I scale? How do I remove thinking from the equation? I was like, well, the way you remove thinking is you script everything, you systemize everything, you create SOPs for everything, you create processes that it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, you follow those things, and now you remove the thinking aspect of it, where it's, all sales is words, right? Like, I say some words that makes you think, I'll set an appointment. I say some words in that appointment that makes you say, I'll become a client. Right? We have a financial business that has a recruiting model tied to it. So I say some words that makes you think, I'll be open to hearing about it. I say some more words that makes you think, I want to do it. And so it's all a mastery of words. Well, the problem is most people will never go on to master those words if you don't lay it out for them. So what we started doing is we started laying out these scripts, building out these processes, removing the thinking aspect of it. And now everyone marches to the same beat. And that's one of the reasons that we've scaled so fast.
That's awesome. So I went from the timeshare exit space into the real estate space, but specifically the wholesale industry. Are you familiar with it?
A little bit, not too much, but a little bit.
It's essentially we go, and that's what a lot of the audience will be. But what you're saying right here, I took a skill set from a completely different industry, had nothing to do with real estate, and I brought it into the real estate space. And it was scripts, systems, processes,
100%.
SOPs. So, and that's why coming into this industry, very similar to, and I'm sure all industries are like this. You're saying the reason it has such a bad rap, the insurance or the life insurance.
Nobody knows how to win.
It's a bunch of hustlers that may say whatever it takes, or to get deals. Well, I came into the wholesaling space after almost doing a 9-figure exit. And when I came in here, I landed my feet in the wholesale industry because I needed to pivot to something to make money. And I didn't know where it was going to take me, but it's been a blessing in disguise that I found the wholesale space. And I came into this industry and I started going to masterminds. Just listen, because I wanted to get familiar with the industry, some of what they called the leaders in the space. Mm-hmm. And I would go to these masterminds, and I was the one that wasn't afraid to raise my hand and talk and ask questions. Even after accomplishing what I did, like I was a student to the game. And I would go to these things and I would tell them, I would be like, man, I got a 13-page script. And I would tell all these like coaches in the space, and they're like, dude, you can't have a 13-page script. That's not going to work. And I'm like, no, I promise you it's going to work. Like, it's working for me right now. Yeah. And when I build my team, all I need them to do is come in and put their personality into my script. And it took me probably 4 or 5 months to actually get the script the way I wanted it. But I came into a space where people were struggling getting consistent results mm-hmm. and scaling it. And they told me everyone in this space said you couldn't exit a wholesale company. It was not exitable. And I was so close to an exit on my last one. I'm like, dude, I'm going to go into this new industry. I'm going to start a business and I'm going to exit as fast as I can just to prove people wrong. Like, I actually didn't even care what I exited for. I just wanted an exit.
Yeah.
And so in 36 months, from the day I put my headset on my head, because I started day one putting my ass back in the seat, because I was like, all right, I'm going to have to rebuild the team. I was a little bit detached from the phones. So I had 100 people on the phones, but I wasn't on the phones every day. And I'm like, I'm going into a new space. I want to know what I'm going to hire for. I want to know the daily grind of it again. Mm-hmm. I want to know the KPIs. I want to know everything. So I did it for four months by myself. I built the scripts. I understood my non-negotiable KPIs, but I was able to systematize the sale. And then my sales process, to where I knew for every X amount of leads, I got a contract. For every contract, I was going to get a funding. Right. I knew it all. And I knew my marketing spend was going to be a certain X multiple on my marketing spend. And in 36 months, what everyone said was not possible, I ended up finding a private buyer that bought the company for $4.5 million. Yeah. This was just 45 days ago. And nobody in the industry but it all came down to having a system, because I came into an industry where it was literally wild, wild west gunslinging.
Yeah, figured out.
Bunch of hustlers making money. So I guess, how'd you go from 19 years old, anxiety on the phone, obviously having success early on, I would assume, right? Because your first year made 120 grand. Mm-hmm. First year, second year.
It was like 150, 180, and then it just climbed.
Got it. So when did you decide, like, hey, I think I know enough where I can go and do this on my own? And was it scary?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It was scary, right? I think when I decided that I was going to go do it on my own is when I started seeing the track record of the people that I was training starting to succeed, right? Because it's like, there's two different, there's I would say not like anybody, but like anybody can get themselves to go do something. Yeah. They can get themselves to win. But there's a big difference between being successful and teaching other people how to be successful.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Big difference.
And like somebody told me the other day, like, I have a mentor. I was like, yeah, is it a mentor though? Or is it somebody that you can learn from? Because a mentor has a track record for helping other people succeed. Somebody you can learn from is just somebody who's succeeded.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right? Like, and that's why you're so powerful. Like, you have a track record of not only succeeding, but helping other people succeed.
Yes.
You're in a mentorship role,
yeah.
right? And so when I started seeing that it wasn't just me winning, but we started having a lot of people that were winning, that's where our confidence came from. It's because I knew, like, I wasn't just going into war. Like, I'm going to war with all my brothers, right? Like I have 15 guys at an 8-bedroom house right now. I just didn't want to invade your entire office, like, rudely, you know what I mean?
But, you should have brought them.
But literally all at the house right now. And so, like, when you build a culture of people that, you know, you're willing to die for them, they're willing to die for you, and you're just willing to fight. You're willing to go into any battle. And I think the other part of it is, like, I think the reason people don't have big goals, have big dreams, the reason they don't chase big desires is they don't want to throw it out there because they don't actually know if they have the work ethic and the willingness to go figure it out.
It out.
And like for me, I've always been like, I'll throw out any goal, any ambition, anything out there because sometimes I'll throw it out and I don't even believe it when I say it. But then I also know that because of how my dad was, like you give your word, you keep it. Like I throw it out there. Now I have no other option. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was scary. It's always scary, right? Like any level of sales, any level of entrepreneurship, anything new, right? Like, you know, you go through 3 stages, right? Like awkward, mechanical, natural, right? Like you're super awkward in the beginning. You feel awkward. You're like, is this even for me? Cause I'm so bad at it, right? Then you become mechanical where you know what to do, but you're still thinking it through. You're scripted, if that makes sense, but it's not natural. And then you move into natural, where you don't even think about it. It's habitual. You know how to get a result. You don't have to think about your responses. You already know what to do at the right time with the right person. Like everything becomes habitual at that moment, right? So I think it's always scary, but you're gonna die anyways, regardless. So might as well take the leap of faith and die trying. You know what I mean?
I love it. You said you got 15 guys back at a house. You die for them, right? Culture. You brought 100%. Up culture. And so explain, because I am a firm believer. I have been an entrepreneur now for 14 years. And I hear so many people out there, or I even see it, where your CEO just walks out of the business thinking it's going to run itself and it just falls to the ground. Right? And not having the proper systems and all that in place. But for 14 years, I have been intimately involved with my businesses. They could run with, like my last one could run without me because like
you did it right.
I did it right, but I was still there every single day. Almost to the point I was the first one in and the last one out. I always was on the front line with my guys or my team, because I had men and women working there. But I was always on the front line with them. I never thought I was too good to go and sit at one of my cubicles, whether it was with my appointment setters or my closers, where I would go and sit with appointment setters for 2 days, you know, in a row, just sitting there with a headset on, busting knuckles with them. And so how important, like culture, in my opinion, is everything. I want to create an environment where people want to come. There's so many people out there right now, whether the owner of that company believes it or not, but a large percentage of his team is actually looking to go on another team right now.
100%.
So you have obviously created something very magical for you to be able to get 18,000 people to want to, that didn't happen by coincidence. Explain culture, man.
Well, I think it's a couple of things. Number one, it's not me, it's we, right? Like we created a culture that people want to be a part of. And I do think it trickles down, right? So like, I'll give you an example. I had, you know, once again, my mentor, right? Who is the reason that we were really even willing to take this jump and make this thing happen. And I look at it and I looked at the culture back in the day that he created, right? Because he created next month we're taking 460 guys to Lake Shasta. We got 25 triple-decker houseboats, and it's just like, you know, there's X Games and bonfires and right? And like I saw that at a beginning stage.
When I started,
I always saw him, and there was times I wanted to be on those trips, and I was, you know, just starting out, so I didn't. So I saw that he was creating a locker room. He was creating a brotherhood. He was creating a culture of people that were willing to ride for each other, right? And I just started studying what he was doing with it. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then we started to build this incredible culture. And I was like, how come we're creating an incredible culture, but not everyone can go duplicate it? Like I can go train somebody's company on this is how you create a culture, and then they don't create the culture.
They don't do it.
I'm like, well, why is this? And so one day I got asked for a speaking engagement. They're like, hey, one of the things you're great at is building culture. Can you train on how to build it? And I'm trying to put together this training. I'm trying to put together this presentation. And I was like, all a culture is the personality of the person leading it in a team. Like that's all it is. Because like, how do you build? You say something, people who agree stay, people who disagree leave. Right?
Yeah.
People see your actions, people who agree with your actions stay, people who disagree with your actions leave. So a culture becomes a mirror of the leader.
Yeah.
So whatever you want your culture to be, the leader has to embody. And if the leader doesn't embody it, it's not going to transfer to the rest of their entire organization, right? Like we had somebody in our organization and they always said the right things. They always said it. Like he would copy even things that I would say to the T. The difference is like, I really meant them when I said it.
Yep.
Right. And people didn't feel that. And so he was having a hard time creating that culture, even though he was saying the right things. And it's because of like, I can play guitar and you can play guitar, but if yours is in tune and mine's out of tune, it's not going to produce the same outcome. And that's kind of what it is. Like I was in tune with everything that I was saying. And so like, people are like, how come you have such loyal people? Because we're loyal, right? Like, how come your people are willing to die? Because I'm willing to freaking die. You know what I mean? Like, and how come like your people have great marriages? Because we realize like if you want to have a great business, most people's sales problems, it's not sales. There's something going on in their home.
Something going on at
You know what I
home.
mean? Like, so the reason people don't perform in the office is because there's something going wrong in their home.
Yep.
So for us, we started realizing like, well, we can't just have a culture of performance. We have to have a culture of becoming the best version of you, and not just in one area, in all areas. Like one of the things that our company trademarks was what we call the 5 F's, right? Faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. And so what we want to do, we call it our fulfillment formula. And so we embody like, hey, we want you to thrive in your marriage, because if I help you make $3 billion this year and you have a horrible relationship with your wife and kids, is that success? No, it's not.
Yeah.
And so we realized that we got to work on people at its core, at the foundation. Yeah. And if the foundation is right, then everything else builds. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons you talked about earlier. You have 18,000 people come into a company. There's probably a lot of knuckleheads. Yes, but they also get filtered out very quickly because they don't fit our mold and what we stand for. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So I think that if the leader embodies it, like if you want your people showing up early, show them how, and show them it through your example, not through what you say. If you want your people to have high levels of urgency, then you got to show the urgency. If you want loyalty, it's not talked about, it's demonstrated, right? Like our people know I'm loyal, not because I say, hey, I'm loyal to you, brother.
Right.
It's because the things that happen behind the scene. You know what I mean? It's like, it's at their worst moments, I'm there for them regardless. It's that they make a mistake and I don't judge them and I have their back regardless, and I help them turn that mistake into something that they learn from. Like I'm there for them in those moments. And so it's the action demonstrated, and then they copy that, and then they start to duplicate it. And that's kind of how we've created our culture.
Love it. How big do you see this behemoth of a opportunity for so many people? How big do you ultimately see this getting?
Our company?
Yeah.
Will be the biggest thing ever in the history of financial services, without a question, without a doubt. And the reason is we've built it for our people. Every other company, most people start a company to sell and get rich. When we started this, we were already rich, right? Like I was already rich, and my mentor who we started it with and has been a major pioneer in it, the pioneer in it, right? And I've co-founded it with him. He was way richer than me. He could have just walked out in the sunset, received millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for the rest of his life, became a billionaire just by sitting and not doing anything, right? So the difference is we didn't start the company to get rich. We started the company for our people.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, is like we truly have our people's best interests at heart, and that will always show through, right? Somebody said this the other day, and I hope I don't screw up this quote because it's so powerful, right? He said, oh, I'm going to mess it up. It says, oh, I wish I didn't mess it up.
A version of it's better than nothing.
A version of it. I'm like, dude, I blanked on it. Stage fright right here.
Yeah.
But it was like, only integrity stands the test of time, right? Or no, sorry, it says, time will reveal all things, and only integrity stands the test of time. So time will reveal all things, and only integrity will stand the test of time. And so I look at it as all these people in these industries that have bad intentions, or not even bad intentions, their intentions are about them and not their people, that will be exposed.
It will be exposed in time.
Exactly. But integrity will stand the test of time, and our integrity is about our people.
I love it. And that all stemmed from Your father.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yeah.
What was the name of his company?
Brian Integrity Services.
Brian Integrity Services. Yeah. That's powerful. You have mentioned mentor multiple times.
Yep.
And every time you mention him, you raise your hand up like he's up here, right? And I don't know if that's just coincidence, but you've mentioned mentor like he's somebody you look up to. How long have you had this, which ultimately is your business partner?
Yeah.
Mentor business / business partner. How long have you, and what's the power in that?
Yeah. Well, he's 6'5", so that, and
that's where.
so there's like a natural. I
think,
look, you know what I mean? I mean, it's so important. You know, I think mentor, like for instance, coming here.
Yeah.
Okay, we have our villa, and in order to get here, I typed in an address.
Yep.
Okay, and the goal of that GPS is to find the shortest distance between my house and your office. And when traffic pops up, it redirects you. When there's a bad street or there's a dead end or there's a pothole, it doesn't take you on those streets. That's what a mentor does.
I love
right?
it. Yeah.
And so I've always believed in having mentors, and I had to fight and earn his mentorship, which then became a brotherhood and a partnership, which is so powerful, right?
Yeah. It ultimately turned into that.
Yeah, and that's what it turned into, right?
How long did that take?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. So
it didn't happen overnight.
Not even a little bit,
Huh?
right? Not even a little bit. Like I remember when I sought out his mentorship and I went to him because I was 19 and he was in his late 20s. I said, will you mentor me, right?
You said that to
Yeah,
him.
I said that to him. He said, will you mentor me? He said, you have to go accomplish X, Y, and Z. So then I went and did it. And I went to him and was like, will you mentor me? He said, well, only if you do this. And then I went and did it. I said, will you mentor me? And then he kept moving the line, if that makes sense. And I finally like crossed over 7 figures in a year, right? A couple of years back. And I go, will you mentor me? And he goes, yes. I said, how come you didn't mentor me all these other years? He said, I was.
I freaking
right?
love it.
And so it was like the Mr. Miyagi moment, like coming to fruition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And so that's the whole point of a mentor. It's the shortest distance between where you are and where you want to be. Yeah. And if you don't have that mentor, you're going to try and experience all these things. And what you see a lot of times, unfortunately, is people like they pick and choose what they want, right? They pick and choose what they want versus taking it and applying exactly what it is. But that's not how it works, right? Like if I wanted to bake a cake, right? I can't cook to save my life. My wife will tell you, right?
Yep.
But if I wanted to bake a cake and I was like, how do I bake this cake? And you gave me all the ingredients, you gave me all the instructions. And I was like, I don't like eggs, so I'm just not going to put them in.
Yep.
Can you get the same outcome?
Nope.
No. What if I was like, hey, I like the eggs, but I'm going to put them in when I want to put them in, not when you recommend to put them in. When we pull it out the oven, then I'll drop the eggs in.
Yep.
We're getting the same outcome?
Not happening.
No. So it's not just having the mentorship, it's intentionally applying every detail of that mentorship with precision and not doing what you want to do. Because having a mentor doesn't mean you agree with everything.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where I disagree, right? But I think one of the problems with our country is that you can't disagree and still love each other at the end. But that's a completely different topic, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean I always agree. But I know there's a reason why he had what I wanted. I'm going to follow it with precision.
Yeah. The reason we're sitting in an office right now in Scottsdale, Arizona, which if I would have met you 4 months, well, I don't even know if we could have met 4 months ago because I was in Raleigh, North Carolina. It would have been a complete mishap for us to meet where I was at. But I was at a point in my life where I went from making millions of dollars a year to back down, and then me and my wife moved to Raleigh. We started a new business, and quickly we started making millions of dollars again. And I got comfortable in Raleigh, North Carolina. And you know, some people would sit here and be like, man, because we were making probably just over $3 million a year. Me and my wife, Raleigh, North Carolina, had the home, the lake house. We were good, dude.
And you're in North Carolina with $3 million.
In North Carolina.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't hard what we were doing. And I remember I came out here. I saw Andy Elliott, which you're going to go with him. You're going to see him tomorrow.
Tonight and tomorrow.
Tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I 6 months ago didn't know who the guy was. And then 4 months ago, I was like, I want to go check this out to see if it's real. And I bought me and my son 2 VIP tickets so I could sit front row.
It's cool that you brought your son with you too.
Yeah, he was 11. He goes, dude, my son's been to more events. Thank God he's in that position to do that than most people out there. And I know it will have an impact on his
100%.
life.
That's cool.
So we're sitting there, and because I at this time I had been mentorless for a few years. And I started feeling a certain way, like I was getting antsy. I didn't know I just didn't feel right. When you start getting drunk off your own sauce of like, man, I've made it, I got the success. For me, it's not a good place. And so I come out here and I see Andy and the culture he built. He's on the front lines with his people. I see him with his wife. I see him with his kids. And I was like, okay, I think this is real. I sat with him for the first time, and he sat with me and my son. My son is 11 years old, and do you have kids?
I have 2 daughters.
2 daughters. You love them with everything. Ounce of your being, right?
Yeah.
So my son is 11 years old, and somewhere along the line, my son started gaining weight, and me and my wife never said anything about it. And it's a very hard conversation to sit with your 11-year-old son and say, hey, son, you're overweight. We need to do something about this. I tried saying it in every other way other than that. And I was never straightforward with him enough to where we can nip the problem in the bud. And I take full responsibility of that. As a man, my 11-year-old son got up to 215 pounds. We came out to see Andy, and they always do this workout in the beginning. And he saw me and my son pretty much, jog and then doing a lot of walking, jog, a lot of walking 6 times around the building. And I didn't know Andy was paying attention to us. And me and Kai, my son, we got in a pretty massive argument during that, because anytime we tried working out together, it didn't go well. Andy saw all of it. And afterwards, after the event, he had come up to me and he goes, I saw the way you and your son were interacting on the, and I had never met Andy. He goes, I saw the way you and your son were interacting on that run. And he goes, I want to sit and talk with your son. So him and Kai go in a back room for, I don't know how long it was. And they come out, and Andy that day completely changed our lives. He comes out and he does a $10,000 bet with my son, and it had nothing to do with money. But he did bet my son $10,000. He goes, if you can lose X amount of pounds by this date, I will give you $10,000. Since that day, my son has lost 30 pounds.
That's so cool.
The first 30 days, Andy, every single morning for about a month and a half, would send my son a video encouraging him, pumping him up. And Andy told me, he goes, I don't need you to do anything other than support him. I'll do the rest. So the reason I'm telling this whole story is he's now my coach. He's now my mentor. Because I see what he's done, and I see the way him and his wife are. I want that in my marriage. He says, always act like it's the first date, and you'll never have your last date. And I see the way he is with his son. I see the way he is with his team. I see what he's built in 3.5, 4 years, man. He's built a behemoth of a coaching business. And he gave me actually the courage and the strength because he goes, I was teetering on the fence of, how do I coach people if I step out of the industry? And Andy goes, I was one of the best car salesmen there was, and I got out and I made a bunch of badass car salesmen. He goes, you don't have to sell the product in order to help people do that.
Correct.
So I came out here. He was like, Eric, I want you as close as you can be with me. And now we're doing events together. It's not like a partnership, but dude, I don't know where it will go with me and Andy, but I see something massive. I really do. And him and I did a podcast just the other day, and it meant a lot to me when he was looking at the camera and he goes, I told Tony Robbins I was going to be his number 1 student. I told Dean Graziosi I was going to be his number 1 student. He looks at the camera and he goes, this guy right here, he is going to be my number 1 student. And it meant something to me, that attaboy that someone patting you on the back saying, hey, you're doing a good job. Even at 43 years old, I need that shit, dude.
Yeah, we all do.
We all need that.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I was going with that. It was talking about mentors and people we look up to.
If I could jump in on that though, like, so now we talked about culture earlier, right?
Yeah.
It's those personalized moments. And now you're in that moment.
Yeah.
You saw how he was with no financial gain. It was just the right thing to do. Right?
Yeah.
And now guess what? Guess how you now operate with your people?
Same, dude.
Different.
He's changed.
You know what I mean? It's different, and that's where the culture comes from. It starts with somebody that's willing to embody something, and it might be it might be out of the norm, right? Like, heck, none of Andy's content is in the norm. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people that talk mad hate just because he's willing to tell the truth, and he's not.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you look at it, but then you like, how come he has all these people that are loyal to the soil, that are willing to go? It's because those personalized moments. He was there for your son without even knowing you.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't even know you and he's there for your son and sends him videos 30 days, then how is he gonna be there for you actually when you have a 1-year relationship, 3-year relationship? You know what I mean?
I do know that. Yeah, and it was I've paid a handful of high level guys. I really have, and I've always gotten something out of it. Right. I never say like, oh, that wasn't worth it, because I pay them, and I always at least got my money back with the knowledge, a piece of knowledge they gave me. He was the first one that was like, I want your family here with you every time you show up to my office. If you're coming to an event, I want your wife, I want your son here. And I was like, you know, no one else has ever asked that of me. No one else really cared about anyone in my family other than, like, they would mentor me when he went above and beyond. And even like him, he's had talks with my wife, and it's like, man, it's just a whole nother level of coaching. And it's something that I hold dear to my heart. It was good enough to where, dude, we pulled up anchor. We came all the way out here to Scottsdale, Arizona, and he is helping.
Sign a lease on a sick office.
And it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
Dude, this was the last office I looked at, and I almost didn't even come here because I was so sick of looking at offices. And when we came here, I was sitting down in the lobby, and I look up and I see Elliot. And I was like, what are the chances that this is? So it already had the energy in here.
Yeah.
But dude, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you in front of everybody that's getting to know you right now, dude. Awesome guy.
Feelings mutual.
You have done something that, dude, you and your team and your people are in a very small group of what has been accomplished. And some people on here right now, they are in a place where what you have done is so not even in their train of thought, where it's like, there's no possible way I can be a Matt, right? What he has done, there's no way. 18,000 people, over 100 million. You're going to own the biggest company in your space ever. For the one where the seat you sit in is just too much for them to even think about. To wind this thing down, and I know it's one of those cliche, talk to your younger self, but this is the refuse to lose. And I know there's not a lot of your current, where you sit today, there's not a lot of them out there right now. Talk to the one that is on the verge of just saying, fuck, giving up on life. Maybe they just started their first sales job, and the pressure is just getting to them.
Yeah.
Talk to that person for just a second.
Damn. I would say, I know it sounds like just don't give up, but like, don't give up, man. Like,
yeah,
I was homeschooled up until 8th grade because I had learning disabilities. I went into high school and I didn't know anyone at my high school. I didn't know I had social anxiety because I'd never been in a school before. Wow. And I started having social anxiety attacks where I had 72 absences per semester, which is one of the reasons I almost couldn't play sports, was because my citizenship was so bad, right? Then I get out of high school, right? And my biggest fear my entire life was public speaking. You know, like my mom as a worship leader, right? And so she used to put on like Christmas programs, and there'd be 100 kids on a stage, and I would hide under her piano because I couldn't be one of the 100 people on a stage like that. How do you have stage fright when you're bigger than the audience? You know what I mean? And that was me, right? Like that was me. I was the kid that when I went into my first appointment, I put the AC at 65 degrees because I thought I can freeze my sweat so that way they don't know it's there, right? And sweating bullets and anxiety and like everything that entrepreneurship was, everything that sales was everything that was against natural for me, right? But I knew I wanted this life. Like I wanted this dream life. I knew what I wanted. And so my advice to you would be find out what you want and just realize in order to get it, you either have to face everything that you're scared to do today, or in 25 years, you're going to regret that you didn't. And that would be my advice. It's either face everything. Like if you're scared of public speaking, go force yourself into it, because it's either you get good at it today or you don't get that dream, right? If you're scared of sales, go master sales and start putting yourself in the most uncomfortable situations. It's because you're either going to get uncomfortable now or you're going to live a life of uncomfortability because you're not where you want to be financially. So figure out what you want and then just aggressively go after everything that you need in order to get it. And just realize that if you don't, you're going to regret that you didn't today, right? And so everyone feels that pain. Everyone feels that anxiety. Everyone feels that worry and that doubt. Unless you're a unicorn and you're perfect, right?
No.
But I had to literally fight like hell through every single moment. The difference is I made an upfront decision that I would never quit. That was my upfront decision. I had a done and done signed deal contract with myself. I will never give up. So every single time I wanted to, I'd look at my own contract with myself. Every single time I wanted to give in, I would look at the contract with myself. And I made that deal, right? Because if you have a plan B, it will distract you from plan A. Yes. And the only way to take the island is to burn the boats that you can retreat to.
I love it.
So for me, it was like, I'm going to burn all boats, give me nothing to retreat to, and I'm going to go all in on one thing, and I'm never going to quit. Because if I just never quit, and I stay in this for 10, 20, 30 years, you're telling me over a 10-year period, 20-year, 30-year period, I'm not going to figure it out? No, you'll eventually figure it out. Most people just don't have the staying power to. So my challenge would be have the staying power and just keep going. Stick and stay, never go away, and eventually things will work out.
I love it, dude. That was a great ending. And I'm not going to water that down at all. I usually like to step in and say something else. But, brother, that was wordsmith at its best.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And I felt everything that you said. So everybody that is watching this is 100% qualified, from social anxiety to hiding under our pianos to drug addicted to it literally does not matter. If you want it bad enough, make that contract with yourself. You're just never going to quit, and get your circle right. I'm telling you, if you refuse to lose, your life will absolutely be beyond your wildest dreams. And I'm living proof of that. Until next time. Hey, what's going on? I want to congratulate you for making it to the end. What does that mean? You're in the 1% club. No one else stuck around. You did. What I want you to do is subscribe. More importantly, comment below. That way I know exactly who you are and we can get to know one another. Every single week, by you turning your notifications on, you're not going to miss the sales training that's going to keep you in this 1% club. Comment below, subscribe. I'm going to see you in the next video. Let's continue to refuse to lose.